I'd like to see if I can attempt to resolve the potential dichotomy or paradox between the absolute truth, or the knowing that everything is it, meaning what is appearing now as this moment, as this breath, as this thought, as this sensation, as this observation, as this place in time, place in the world, geography, in the space you're living in, etc., etc., etc. Whatever is appearing right now, exactly as it is absolutely it. And what do I mean by absolutely it? Well, I mean, in every moment that we move upon, let's say, the apparent spiritual journey, what seems like the spiritual journey, compared to what previously may have not been a spiritual journey, right? We think, oh, well, now I have awoken to this journey and I'm on this spiritual quest and I'm doing all these spiritual things. You know, I'm practicing, meditating, I don't know, coming to sessions like this. I'm eating all the fruits. I'm listening to all the teachers. I'm dressing in spiritual clothing, you know. I got my crystals. I got my books that I'm reading. I got the endless retreats that I'm going to. I have all these beliefs and ideas. So it seems, okay, well, we have this spiritual journey now. It's happening. And yet, if we go back to what I just explained or what I just shared, that exactly as what's appearing now is already it. So we're on this apparent spiritual journey to attain or to come to or to realize or to embody, integrate, awaken, you know, all the adjectives. What we could say is absolute love, absolute fulfillment, absolute peace, happiness, joy, complete freedom, complete abundance, complete void of all suffering. Right? So when I say it, that's what we can characterize it. We could also consider it to be God, source, the absolute truth, the divine, nirvana, enlightenment. There's a million terms that endless ages of teachings and teachers and individuals, etc., energy that has looked to define what it is, but all have pointed to the reality that it can't actually be defined. Just like we can't grasp this present moment. It's not here. As soon as we try and grasp it or we think we've held it, it's already the next moment, and endlessly so. So how do we resolve the statement or the pointer that says, exactly as this is, exactly as whatever this is, this, whatever we can say this is, right? We could say, oh, this is myself, this is the present moment, this is awareness, this is energy, this is God, whatever it is. We can't even really say what it is, but we're pointing to it and we're saying this is it. Already, it's already always been it. It's never not been it. It'll always be it. So how do we resolve this with the apparent contradiction, potentially, or the paradox, that we're on a spiritual journey looking to attain what this already is, right? Like we're going to go and sit in a meditation and we're going to, the intention is I'm going to come into this, you know, this love, this peace, this joyfulness. I'm going to realize God. I'm on a journey. I'm not there yet, so I got to practice more. I got to do these things. I got to have all these steps. This is what I got to do. And if I do them, then I'm going to attain it. Right? But then what happens? We go along that journey and then we don't do it right, or we miss a day, or we're doing everything we think we're supposed to do, but for some reason we're still in suffering. And so like, oh, well, I got to do more of it. What's happening? How long is it going to take? I got to get there. Right? It's promised to me. I've read all these books. It says it right there in the scripture. If I do these things, I'm going to get it. I'm going to realize this absolute God, this absolute truth. So what a paradox, huh? Because from the vantage point of all being it, it means everything is absolutely already it. The moment that you're living it exactly as it is already the absolute God source, truth, absolute love, the ultimate desire. Everything you could possibly seek at the end of the rainbow is actually already here. It's already exactly where you are. And it's manifesting as the challenge. It's manifesting as the guilt, the joy, the coffee cup, the laptop, the puppy, the room, the breath, the space in between, inside the body, outside the body. Every thought, word, action, every movement, every arising, every sensation, everything is already it. It's already the absolute truth, God source, unify, source, love, ultimate desire, all the adjectives, it's already that. Because if the description we're using to describe what it is as eternal, all loving, omnipresent, absolutely everything and absolutely nothing, everything in between, well, then it could never be anything but that. And every moment that we observe, every moment that is, every arising, every sensation, every thought, word, movement is already that. It could only ever be that. So then, of course, the question lies, well, why doesn't it feel that way? Why can't I believe that? Or why do I doubt that? Or why do I feel suffering still? Or why am I still confused? Or why do I feel still that I'm not free? That I have to do all these things to become that in which I already am. I got to do all these things to be who I am. How does that make any sense? I'm already who I am. So we can say that and see that the distortions of the mind, the conditioning of the mind, the autopilot nature of the mind, the movements, the almost computer-like nature of compulsion that moves and continues to move and continues to say, I need that, I need to consume that, I need to become better, I'm not there yet, right? This is separate from this, and that is separate from this. I'm not that person, and that person's not me, and this is that. It's constantly in this. It's kind of this perpetual program that's moving. And so the paradox is that all the practices we do to bring calm to all of that, to heal that, to resolve that, to move into that, is not saying that what this is already is not already it and absolutely it. And the funny thing is that no practice will ever bring us to this. No meditation, no scripture, no advanced light body technique, no teacher, no retreats, no crystal packets, nothing. Nothing will ever bring us to what already is right here as this. What's happening here, exactly this, is already the absolute truth, the absolute love, the highest of fulfillment that you possibly come into, already here. And so simply coming to this through knowing, right? It's one thing to mentally understand, but it's not the mind that can come to this, right? We can't say that in which says, oh, I understand that, is not what is going to realize this. It's not what knows this. And that's the tricky part. Because when we're coming to a certain surrender into this, it's like stepping off the cliff, but then, the step kind of just like lands there as we take the step. It's right there. Oh yeah, I'm actually good. Then you take the next step and you're like, oh yeah, I'm actually good. It's this perpetual surrender. So the practices now from this knowing, like if we are going to go into this meditation now from this clarity, whatever clarity has emerged from you here, if at all, we come from this place of a natural recognition of what is most joyful, right? It feels most joyful now in this moment to go into this meditation or to do this practice or to do what previously we may have considered, spiritual or what's going to bring me there. But now from this vantage point, we could still hold to that, sure, but we see it more as a natural expression, right? Because what else to do with our time, really? I mean, to treat people nice and to do some breath work and to move our body and to do all the things that are, trendy and spiritual. But I mean, really, what else to do with our time? So it's not that we are denouncing the movement of the practice because we realize that practices could never get us to where we already are, of course. And enlightenment or realization, these are all just illusionary ideas of the mind. because there is no final enlightenment. There's none of that exists, because it's an eternal process. If it exists, it would say that at some point it was not. This was not it at some point. So it has to get to the end point to then know itself as it. Oh yes, this is the enlightenment. This is the love now. Versus before, that wasn't it. No, that's not it at all. It's eternally already it. And we are already that. So the mind also looks to things like this and says, well, that's just too simple. That's why even ramble on about that? And it's true. We don't really need to go on to it too much longer. Just like no words can really grasp what I'm even saying. There's no words that can actually identify what I'm pointing to, what I'm saying, what is known there. But they can help at times, right? Because it's all just to help the mind come to quiet. So now we're going to explore this and how it feels, right? So maybe there's already a feeling there in the body, just after what I've shared, that all the pressure, all the weight, if there's any, even most subtle, or all the sense of self that says, I'm still needing to get somewhere. There's somewhere other than here, and we can close our eyes as I come into this. There's somewhere other than here that is more it than what this is. And so even if there is a practicality to realizing that maybe there will be more of an expansive experience, or more of a blissful or peaceful, or all the adjectives, maybe there'll be more of that at a certain point. Maybe this is true. But we're still coming to recognize here exactly as what this is right now, exactly as everything's arising, all the thoughts, feelings, sensations, whatever this is right here is completely okay, completely perfect, and everything we could really wish for, because this is what we've been presented now. So even if something is coming that's better in some other place, this is what's on the table right now. Because of course, the funny thing is, if there's something potentially better in some other place, then it means there also could be something that's worse. And that's always deep down eating away. It's the deep primordial fear that is sourced from this very desire that there's something in some other place but here, some other time but here, that is somehow better than what this is. And so we come now here to the freedom, the absolute freedom that exists here, to know that this is all it is. All it's ever been, all it will ever be is right as this. And we can see that all the movements of sensation, thought, feeling, perception, energy, all of it is just dancing around what we're pointing to, what we're speaking to. It can't be identified, it can't be grabbed, it can't be held on to. It's already here and this exactly as it is. And so with that, every thought, feeling, sensation, anything that seems good, bad, ugly, anything in between, anything that's presently here arising is arising also as it, as that absolute God, source, love. It may appear as something other than that. And this is completely okay. So in this, we can feel a spaciousness, a love of freedom that's boundless, every direction, 360 degrees. It covers the full spectrum of the body. It's as if you have a 360-degree camera, but there's no center point to that camera because you are the spaciousness that exists everywhere, as everything, within everything, around everything, and as everything. It's boundless, eternal, completely free. All the thoughts, feelings, sensations, all these things that arise are not your own. They're simply arising as the same spaciousness, as the same love, the same freedom. And even if the breath wants to move, where we're controlling the breath very gently and moving it through the spaciousness, it's as if we're breathing eternally, meaning the breath has no location. It's boundless in every direction. So the inhale is just moving through the spaciousness. The exhale is moving through the spaciousness, not just through this physical body, but boundless in every direction. It is not locked to any space and time. It's as if this breath interconnects the web of the spaciousness. There may be colors of rainbow filaments, pastel colors, pale silver, gold, and light through this breath, or it could be completely clear and translucent. It's all valid. It's all the same. Anything that's perceived as a distraction is perceived still as this absolute love, this absolute God. It's both of this and whatever the mind is seeing it as, distraction, something that's bringing your focus away or making this meditation less enjoyable. It can be all of it simultaneously. We could see it simultaneously as this absolute love, this absolute joy, and whatever else the mind wants to label it as. Everything can be both and neither. And thus we're not running towards or running away anything. Nothing is pushed against or resisted. And so we see everything as absolutely filled with this love and also completely empty. And it's often the emptying first that opens up for this fullness to emerge. Whereas we see that the weight of thought, of feeling, sensation, of ownership, identity, expectation, desire, as we see that this weight is actually empty. It's actually weightless. There's nothing to it. There's no true substance. There's nothing to be found there. It's through this that we realize and see what has been there all along. At a certain point, we may feel into even a filament of a flame around the body as we've simultaneously connected to this eternal nature. We also begin to connect and reveal the eternal anatomy. And so the application of the core of the perspective shared today can be emanated into everything that perpetually arises. We're seeing it as already what we've endlessly sought out. So no matter if in a situation that we perceive seems challenging, a thought, a feeling, a sensation, a circumstance, or experience, it is all already this absolute love, this absolute truth. And it is, of course, for us to see it in this way, where we can receive the lessons, the abundance, the energy, the direction. Because from this vantage point, we are perpetually only following what is that of the highest joy. What is the most joyful path in all circumstances, all situations, all moments, all relationships, all experiences, all places within space and time? Because what we are does not exist within space and time. It's boundless, eternal, complete and whole, exactly as it already is. And so as we enjoy the dream of space and time, the exploration of experiences within space and time, we're essentially taking this knowing with us. That in truth, nothing can really touch us or harm us. There's no suffering that has ever made a dent in this absolute knowing of our true identity. And there's also nothing that can bring us more into this, that in which we already are. It's only ever just a joyful exploration. So whatever creative endeavors, whatever relationships, whatever paths or practices, projects, whatever is to be explored is only ever going to be, from this vantage point, an exploration of this joy, of this freedom, of this love, of all the principles that have been shared in all ancient traditions and are held at the fundamental core of our nature, our divine blueprint. The natural expression of joy, integrity, kindness, respect, patience, humility. And there may be many others that naturally come as we each explore this individually. And so some of us may feel complete here. Some of us may feel called to rest within this longer, or within whatever thread we are exploring, or just the open eternal silence that's also there. You may feel called to move the body, or stretch out, open the eyes, or anything of the sort. So feel free to share in the comments how this is, how this meditation has been, or even about what we shared previously to the meditation, or if there's anything else you'd like me to explore on that, any questions, comments. We're still in it, and we're also still in it, of course, whether the eyes are open or closed. Eternally in it. So very nice, very nice. So endlessly a paradox, really. There was a Rumi poem, or just quote, that I saw on a YouTube comment recently, and it was something along the lines of, I got on my horse and I went door to door asking people, where's my horse? And this is exactly what we're pointing to today. And so the funny thing is that the teaching of the sword, or a perspective of the sword, or reflection of the sort, let's say in the yogic tradition, would be under the definition of Yana, true knowledge. Right? True knowledge, the knowledge of the self. Yana yoga, Raja Yana, the king of all yogas. This is more commonly known as Advaita, or non-duality, right? We see a lot of teachers all over the place spewing out this stuff. There's a difference between, knowing it intellectually, or coming to know it, and actually embodying that and living that. And in my experience of Yana, there are many Yanas, but in what I'm speaking to, practices don't end. They never end. It's just that the highest of practices were only ever a description of reality, meaning like walking, let's say, right? We could say, whether you're enlightened or not, you're still going to be walking. So if walking is a practice to enlightenment, well, after enlightenment, it's still going to be the practice. It's just not seen in the same way. It doesn't carry the weight of the seeker, the seeking, the endless feeling of lack, needing to seek out something or someone or some technique or situation or object or something to purchase, something to obtain, something to own. Right? So what we're pointing to initially today is we're dissolving the seeker. We're saying there is no seeker, because you're already that. That in which seeks is already what it is. It's like the eye is trying to see itself, or exactly what Ania shared, the sun example, right? The sun that looks on the earth and says, where is that light coming from? It can't be. Where is it? But it is the source of that. It is in truth what is bringing all of this light to, this earth. So how silly would it be for the earth for the sun to travel around? Because what's the funny thing about that? That journey would be endless. That journey would never come to a resolution. which in truth means the seeking or the suffering would never end. So in every moment that we are pulled or compulsed into looking to own, looking to do something, looking to consume, looking to grab a hold of, for the purpose of coming to what this is, this essentially experienceless experience, you know, the ultimate truth, right? The ultimate fulfillment, which is, it's like suffering is not, you know, the filling up of love so that we deal with our suffering. No, it's actually the complete absence of suffering. And in the complete absence of suffering, the naturalness of existence is seen. So we've used words like love or peace or things to describe what it is, but that's not actually what it is, because there's nothing that you can use to describe what is being, you know, attempted to be described right now. Right? It's like, it doesn't matter how many times you try and communicate how much you love something or someone. It's only really the feeling, the presence, the essence that someone feels off you that they will be able to really know that from you. You know, if we're speaking in relationship terms. So the funny part is that the bolt on the tire that needs the wrench to pull it off is already God. It's already this absolute truth, but we still need the wrench to pull it off. Right? We still use the wrench to go and say, okay, I'm going to crack open this tire, you know, I'm going to change the tire. So in practical terms, we could say that all the spiritual practices or the things that we had engaged, like say activating a light body, you know, or breathing and filling our body with, you know, this good ass prana or something like this. Well, this is the same thing. We can simultaneously come to recognize and know, absolutely, we are already this absolute freedom. We are already absolutely free. So we can see how this likely is going to change the practices we engage in. Because if our spiritual seeking or all the practices have been engaged for the purpose of realizing that in which we already are, and then we come to know, oh, wait a minute, I'm already this, and I feel this. I feel this freedom. I feel this visceral peace and this joyfulness, this love for absolutely no reason at all. It's already here. Then of course, you know, the nature of the practices we engage in is going to change, because we're not doing it like this like fiending for this next hit or this next love or this next you know, oh, I feel so terrible. I need something. I need something to fill this void that I could never fill. This is, of course, going to change, but a new maturity emerges from this space, right? So we engage, you know, okay, we're going to travel through the universe. Well, yeah, there's very specific practices to travel, you know? Or we're going to activate this aspect of our light body, or we're going to activate this essence of ourselves, or this flavor, or we're going to focus upon this, you know? Everything is just this joyful exploration from this vantage point. Again, what else is there to do from this vantage point than to go and explore and to be this, right? To be an expression of this absolute one, this absolute God, this absolute love, to be in service, to be in, you know, like all the principles we outlined, the golden rule, the absolute way in which we can act, like walking. The golden rule doesn't just disappear after we come to this. It actually becomes more pronounced. We embody it endlessly and eternally, even more deeply, right? So the most primary basic spiritual teaching becomes the most primary and basic way in which we live, moment to moment. And in truth, many of the practices that we look at are this, at least the original practices. And this is why we always come back to the original teachings. We come back to those in which have been as little distorted as possible, even though all teachings in some form will carry distortions on this planet, but that's okay, right? Because that's part of the navigation. I had to rip through lots of judgment in my mind. I felt it hard to believe that I have arrived and that I'm also evolving. That's okay. I shed tears of joy, feeling that I'm always loved. And yes, exactly. Right. And so we can see that, you know, 10 years of, you know, trauma healing or this and that to address this and address that and address this and address that could in a moment could be those tears you're shedding. you know, in the moments that you come to accept that this freedom that you already are is already here, all of a sudden the tears of joy pour out like waterfalls, because all the traumas, all the things that we've been attempting to heal, which may or may have not, or maybe had some progress or a little progress or that, all of a sudden in an instant could be healed, in an instant could be cleared, like a miracle, right? And endlessly, as we return back to that, it happens again and again, right? So light years of trauma, billions, trillions of years of trauma, endless of incarnations, and all of that. We can think, how immense would that be to think, oh, I have all this work to do, you know, I have all this stuff to do, you know. And the funny thing is the journey of the spiritual quest, which may have been lasted lifetimes, is the only real way that we could come and accept something like this. So it's why it's the most advanced of yogas, right? So it's all just this endless paradox, right? It's all just this endless paradox that we go about these practices and we go about these things, and now maybe this lifetime we may have not to practice anything. Someone who's practiced you could be a seeker for 30 years in this lifetime, and someone just all of a sudden just wakes up and all of a sudden feels completely free. All the suffering just washed away. Right? We could say, well, how is that possible? Well, of course, we have endless lifetimes before this that we have been in the cave, we've been in the monasteries, we've been the intense, you know, seeker, we faced all the suffering, we've been burned at the stake, right? We've gone through so much, and this is why we're here now, right? So this is the endless paradox. And so it's really not one or the other. It's not like, oh, well, I just never need to do anything again. I mean, maybe that's it. Maybe that's what you come to. Maybe in a moment in time, that will be it. Be like, oh yeah. But like I said, well, what would life be then, you know, without all these things that we engage in and do? It just doesn't carry the weight. It doesn't carry this energy of this lack seeking. Oh, I got to get somewhere. I'm not already there. So I got to do all these things. I got all this to-do list and all that. And, you know, it comes into a balance, right? Because if anything, we get more disciplined after we come to know this. We get more focused, more devoted, right? It's just completely different and yet the same. So that was a lot today. I hope it's clear. And if it's not clear, and often it won't be initially by the mind can be very confused by these types of things. And I have not shared in this way in some time, but I felt like it was just time, you know, it's just something to share because it's both true. It's all true. And it's only truth that will prevail anyways. So let's focus on that. If there's any other questions or comments or shares or etc., then this would be the time for that. Otherwise, oh, I have a couple things here. Yeah, there you go. The suffering of separation dissolves, that everything is it. Such a mind-blowing and relaxing experience. There we go. Yeah, so we endlessly come back to, that's the practice, that's the paradox of this, is that we could hear this once and it could open up everything. You can get a transmission, an energy sense once, and it opens up everything. Or it needs to happen multiple times or many times. And really at the core, it's us having to continuously remind ourselves again and again and again to come to this again and again and again and again and again and again and again until it starts to root itself, right? Like a mountain, so stable. Right? And it can take years, really. The simplest of teachings that we've explored today can still take years for integration. And that's also okay. It's all fine. Yeah, you're welcome, Mayanka. Thanks for being here as usual. Yeah, so that's it. I mean, I could, I guess, end all my sessions from here on out there. We could just watch this one. for the next whatever amount of time we'd like to watch. Yeah, pretty much. I mean, it's not like you guys need me anyways, you know. You don't need anyone. You don't need anything. We would have, and we will come to this at some point. Right? So that's the beauty. That's the trusting in everything, in divine timing, right? That in truth, nothing is actually necessary. So everything that we think we need, and we feel so urgently feeling that we need it, not necessarily the case. And that's why patience always prevails, because patience is eternal, and whatever's meant for us will be there anyways, in some form. It will make it to us. It will appear. It will arise, and it's already arising as this anyways. So let's just focus on what this is and what is happening and what is here already, always. And, you know, then the chips fall as they may, as people like to put it. So, you know, that what a better solstice message, transitional message into the new year than that. I mean, we can get into all the relative topics and all the things of this or that, you know, about, I don't know, everything. There's just so many things we could talk about, right? And it's all relevant. It's all valid. It's all things that I'd be willing to talk about, but it all comes back to this anyways. So if we just go straight to this, then we have clarity in regards to all the other stuff. You know, any potential topic, anything that's bringing any sort of uneasiness, lack of confusion, you know, because what is it stemming from? It's stemming from the primary original feeling of lack, fear, you know, inadequateness would be such an accurate term. It's stemming from that primary sense of that there is not a knowing of who one actually is. What is the actual source of this? What is the real source of absolute fulfillment? Because all the other topics are only really at the core looking to fulfill that void, fill that original misconception or that original ignorance, that original lack or forgetfulness. Anything, you know, blaming Trudeau, blaming powers that be, blaming the aliens, blaming COVID, blaming, you know, this person, that person, blaming this situation, blaming, you know, the lack of knowledge, the lack of money, the lack of, you know, teachers, the lack of effort, the lack of support, the lack of this and that. It's just lack everywhere, lack of food, lack, you know, if this original lack is gone unresolved, then everything in eternity will hold this lack. Initially, it may seem like God, right? The false God. It will appear as that. Oh, this new teacher. Oh, this new news article. Oh, this new meal. Oh, this thing. Oh, this, that, all that. But then every single time, what will be revealed? What will be revealed is that original lack, that inadequateness, that lack of fulfillment, that sense of void, that something ever so small is still missing. So until that is resolved, and it cannot be resolved in time. There's no place in time that will be resolved. It's already filled. It's actually not missing. It's never been missing. There's actually nothing missing at all. Right? And because of that, we are like warriors. We are like, yeah, like the most peaceful of warriors, the most clear of beings to navigate all the relative things that seem not aligned, that seem not correct, that seem unrighteous, that seem deathly, devilish, evil, all of that. We're not ignoring the practical realities of our moment-to-moment experience, but the beauty is that when we come to know what we're speaking about here, those things just seem to appear in much different ways all of a sudden. You know, or within our co-created reality, they seem to just kind of dissolve or hold less weight or just not really exist in that same way. All this, it's just like, what? Wait a minute. Hmm? Debbie says, isn't lack the original sin? In Genesis, creation story, and the fall, the illusion of separation from source. It could be read like that now. Now that I listen to what you're saying, yes, it can be read in many ways, right? All coming and creating the external forms of value of needing to consume. We could say eating of the apple, consuming food from our breatharian state was an original sin. We could say the movement into money, needing to exchange money for all these things when really we just want to give to each other, right? We could say the true sense of separation, the golden rule, right? Starting to judge others as yeah, all of this, so many different ways to interpret that original point there. So yeah, thanks for sharing. So yeah, an eternal reminder that we can come back to, because it shall be tested endlessly, of course. And that's, of course, why we're in a body. We're here to be tested, to learn, to remember, to awaken and realize all of this. So I feel complete with that. This one will surely be uploaded and likely on YouTube, not just on Patreon, because everyone shall see this. And nonetheless, I appreciate all of you who are on Patreon supporting this work. I mean, I put it out, most of my stuff freely. I put a lot of stuff on Patreon from these, but it's an endless open exchange, and I appreciate exchanges that are constantly given. So yeah, so with that, I feel good. And at the moment, we will have a session next week, unless something changes, but I don't see why not. So that will be the case. If not, then I'll make an announcement, or if there's any date changes. But yeah, I hope all of you enjoy this transition into the new year. As I said, the 12 days of Christmas started yesterday, goes to just January 2nd into the 3rd, which is like the 13th, like the 13th virtue. We come into that enlightenment essence. It's kind of like a recalibration every year we go through. Originally, it would be 1 day of activation for every DNA strand in certain periods. It's not exactly the same like that anymore, but we always feel the essence, like beyond all the materialism, beyond our initial maybe rejection when we come into New Age stuff, or when we're getting anti-religious or that, and we're like, I don't like Christmas, or I don't like, there is a beauty to this time, and we see beyond all that. And we feel the joyfulness and the coming together, physically or not, or whatever. We feel that, everyone feels that on some level. There could be other emotions, associated with it, right? Due to family and this and that. So this is a time always that we look to see the truth in it all, and we come to that truth, and we feel that, and we just ride the wave, just take rest and ride the wave into Aries season, which is always a bit more focused. It's always where we have that initial burst of energy, that movement. Because yeah, we're coming into Aries, we're coming into the fire, right? So let the earth of Capricorn, let the earth of this time to kind of like ground us in and enjoy, spend, our time with the family, our time with ourselves, our time with the music and the festivities and all the things. Enjoy it, and take rest with ourselves and those we enjoy and those we love. So I'm wishing the best to all of you within that, and probably see you before the new year. So it's good too. Yeah. All right. Peace love to all y'all. We went on a little long today, a lot of talking, but I hope it was beneficial. So see ya. You're welcome.